Jeshi is a UK rapper from North London specifically, and he has put out his debut album here titled Universal Credit. It immediately caught my eye when I saw the title of the album and also the album artwork, which is so good and has such a tongue-in-cheek comedic edge to it that just makes it one of the best album covers I've seen this year, and one of the funnier album covers I've seen from a rapper in quite some time. So that alone is just such huge praise from me in itself. And I was hoping that the music would live up to it too, because in case you are not from the UK yourself and you're viewing this video, I will explain that Universal Credit is a type of government income that you can receive if you are not earning enough, if you are not passing a certain threshold in your job, or you're currently unemployed and you're looking for work. You can sign up to Universal Credit. They will pay you a pretty small amount per month. I mean, as you can see on the album cover, he's signing a check which is like, £300 or something. Clearly not a great amount of money, of course, to live on, but it is there for you to access if you are in need of it. And it's usually for people who are, from poor backgrounds. It's very much for the people who are living in poverty in the UK. Lots of critiques, lots of arguments about it. Some people think it shouldn't even exist at all, but then a lot of arguments you see are about how it should be more. We should be paying people more. We look at Scandinavian countries, they literally have like a basic income for everyone across the country. And the UK is meant to be richer, and yet we can only, give a few £100, etc., etc. There's a huge debate about it. And while, yes, rappers from all parts of the world have rapped about poverty and rapped about their backgrounds and their lives and how growing up in, poor backgrounds have affected them, and they offer their insights to the world about what it can be like for someone who is from those kinds of backgrounds. I've never quite seen someone tackle it head on like this with the album title and album cover, and through the album with such dense and insightful lyrics in this kind of way. I feel like this is one of the most British albums I've heard in quite some time, with the references that he makes, with how just so pinpoint he is with all of his bars touching on these topics. It's insanely accurate and scarily accurate too. It's not like it's every track, but the tracks that do touch on it have such phenomenal bars that reference things that, for someone like me as well, I've come from that kind of background too, and to hear references that he's making is kind of scary at times, because if you are someone from that kind of background, you're going to really relate to what Jeshi is saying. For the album itself, aside from all the lyrics, it's fantastic. The rapping is super engaging from the get-go. Of course, you have the first track, which isn't actually a song, the first of the month for the rest of your life, which I think is quite a clever title. But then Sick is so good. Just basically his frustration being poured out into the world. Sick of things never going right, sick of this, sick of that, sick of this. It's just anger kind of being pushed through into the music, and it's sold incredibly well. His voice just has so much emotion behind it, and also the beat is super good too. A track like this alone for me should be putting him in the conversation for better rappers from the UK at the moment, because there are some out there that don't particularly have engaging flows. The beats are pretty limp at times too. I'm not going to name names, but there are some pretty weak rappers that are getting a lot of hype in the UK at the moment. But from the get-go, this guy immediately inserts himself and just makes a name for himself, and just has such a great delivery that carries the tracks. Killing Me Slowly as well. There's a great hook on this track. It's got a bit of like a Loyal Kana edge to it too, who's also another UK rapper who's doing pretty well for himself at the moment. You've got the voice over sort of automated message right at the end, coming through from Universal Credit, and you know, he kind of just gets angry and like throws his phone at the end. There are plenty of references to this throughout the album. It's not like it's on every track, but here and there, you know, you get an insight of what it's like for someone that isn't working and can't seem to, you know, stay in a stable job and things like that. One of the bigger topics on this album actually though is addiction. He actually goes through so many tracks where he's speaking on how basically his life has led him to where he is now. Another Cigarette is a good example of this. You've got the really hazy instrumental, which is working nicely with the topic of the song. He's going to the doctors, they're telling him it's all in his head. I guess it's touching on paranoia and things like that. Lots of dark lines about how he's very much being controlled by drugs, and it's, yeah, kind of sad to hear. I mean, so many people from this background, so many people from these poverty backgrounds do end up being led into drugs for multiple reasons, to be honest. There's a lot of variables and factors that play into it. But the way he kind of like speaks for so many people on a track like this and other tracks too, I think is really impressive and makes it really relatable. It's hard actually to tell whether he is trying to, you know, play a character that is relatable for people that are in a similar position, because he might be doing that, or what I would assume the second thing here is that it's all from experience. He's experienced it all himself and he's talking from experience. I would imagine that's probably the more likely outcome. It's far too specific at times to be just a character, I think. P45, I mean, the chorus on this one, again, fantastic. The references to being in the pub, but he calls it Spoons, which again is like a really famous pub in the UK, which is weird to hear in a song. I can't think of many songs that reference spoons directly, but he's talking about how he's looking in the mirror. He just kind of hates himself, basically. Like, just the lines that he's portraying just make it sound like he doesn't want to be doing this life, but he can't seem to get out of the cycle of it. And then on his way home, he's throwing up on the train. It's just things like this that just make it too specific. Too specific to be just him writing a story. Dreamt I was rich, clock woke me up, checking my post, P45 ain't come. Yeah, it's just lines like this that just make it, again, relatable. I mean, how many times have you had a dream where you're like living a life that you think sounds so cool, and you wake up and it's just all hazy, and you're like, oh man, damn, that was a cool dream. I want to go back in that dream. Then you try falling back asleep, and then, yeah, the dream doesn't happen again and you're dreaming about something else. It's just a great line. But yeah, a lot of the story-driven aspects of this album, the touching on poverty and things like that, the way it sounds like he's speaking from character, which I don't think he is, but again, it sounds like that at times, makes me think of the Streets. Like, I haven't really quite heard an album that's tying in such great themes from the UK that is like on level with something the Streets would have done back in like 2004 with A Grand Don't Come For Free. Like, it's not quite a narrative from start to finish in the way that one is, but the way the lyrics are so detailed, they're so descriptive, they're so good at painting a picture, you immediately know what he's talking about from the lines he's saying. It's been quite some time since a UK rapper has been able to pinpoint something like that so perfectly. And that is high praise for Jeshi, because of course it's been a long time since the album came out, but he is up there making tracks on the level of something like that. There's been other rappers as well from the UK that are getting so much praise with their writing, their storytelling, Dave, Slow Tie, to name a couple, but I don't think either of those come to the level of tracks like Generation. The track Generation is just so perfectly written. How you make another kid disappear, pissed in the park with a 6-pack of beer, madness of youth when your mum isn't here. What a great set of lines that is, man. And again, talks about how the impact of, you know, generations can just kind of lead you to where your life is, like your family and their family. Like, it goes on and on, you know, your mum, your mum's mum, your mum's 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 mum, and it kind of just all trickles down into a constant state of poverty. Nothing ever changes, you never seem to get out of the cycle. Just really well done in how it's referencing how generations are messed up, at the moment from these backgrounds. I've touched on this before as well in the Spanish love songs review, so if you want to hear me talk about this again in that review, because there was a similar track on that album that touches on this similar idea, and I feel like both songs and both artists depict it so well. There's even a that kind of two mums aspect to this track as well, with the generations and fatherlessness. Both tracks on this album, two mums and generation, the two tracks tie those themes quite well together. 3210 is another fantastic track writing wise. City of No Hopers, That's Why We Don't Vote, another sort of small reference to something bigger, because of course, again, from where he's from, so many people just have no hope, that the point or the idea of voting just seems absolutely pointless. It's interesting as well, because I had a quick look, and not too long after this album came out, he was speaking about how the cost of living crisis and the current state of politics, modern politics, is just a bit of a mess. There's an interview that you can find where he's talking about that. So again, his passion for this kind of thing is so strong. Abong Jayar comes through on a few tracks, most notably Protein, another track as well later on in the album that he's on too. Always good to hear this guy, because for a feature, he's fantastic. We heard him on the Little Sims album, killed it there, killing it here. And then the Escapism, hopefulness, sort of out of the realms of possibility, closing track, National Lottery, which again is another good track for great British references, where he's talking about daytime TV and being fed up of seeing Philip Schofield's face. We've all been there. One of the best lines actually on this album for me, where he talks about the black mold being on the windows and the council still ain't fixed it. Man, let me tell you, bro, black mold, I've seen some black mold in my time, bro. I've lived through some black mold. Hearing this line, it was like, what the fuck? Like, hearing someone else say it in a song was just like, man, this guy gets it. This guy gets it. Jeshi gets it. But yeah, the track itself, where he's talking about how hopefully a lucky dip will take him out of poverty, it'll make him rich. Obviously, the chances of it are just so low, but the chances of anything good happening to him, which is depicted throughout this entire album, are so slim that the idea of holding on to the National Lottery, a National Lottery ticket, the holding on to that hope is worth its weight in gold, because there's just nothing else to be hopeful for. There's addiction, there's the poverty, there's the city he's living in, there's the murder he sees, where he's talking about kids killing kids and things like that. All of that is just accumulating into hopelessness. So the one thing he can hope for is winning that jackpot on a Friday or on a Saturday or whatever day it's on. I don't really collect tickets, to be honest, but it's usually the weekend anyway. And that right there, man, just again is so clever, the way he's writing about these things. He just gets it. He knows how to tap into those thoughts and feelings and emotions. He knows how to tap into what other people are going through. This has got to be one of the most relatable albums for the year, for people who have, come from this kind of background. And one of the most relatable albums I've heard in some time. I mean, like I said, I name dropped a few rappers earlier, particularly from the UK. They might be getting a lot of hype, but I don't think their writing is as strong as what this guy is putting out at the moment. I'm not only referencing UK rappers, but for me, this is the best hip hop album I've heard all year. I think that could be beaten, obviously, by the end of the year. We are in August. By the time the year ends, there could be other albums that come out too. But for now, this for me is the best rap album I've heard all year. It is stellar. It is just so good. From the concept to the tapping into so many topics, the addiction, the hopelessness, the passing on from generations, the poverty kind of cycle, the kind of political angle of this too, the universal credit aspect of it as well. Just everything is just so on point. It is fantastic. And yeah, he should be proud of this one, man. I don't know how it wasn't up for a Mercury Prize. Hopefully the Brits recognise this, but I doubt they will. The fact that it's not up for anything is insane, to be honest. But wow, brilliant. Just a brilliant album. What a great album, and what a great statement for your first one too. 8.5 out of 10 from me. I think honestly it could even be a 9 if I was, you know, thinking about it a bit more, or more time passes, it could grow to a 9. But yeah, so good. Thank you for watching this review. Basically it gets my recommendation, so please check it out if you've never heard it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you have heard it. Please tell me what you think. Do have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already as well, and goodbye.